Let's bring in Grant Napear. I do think it's emblematic of the cultural shift that we are seeing across the country. But I want to go back in time, way, way back in time, to 5 years ago in the summer of 2020. Grant Napear with us now. And Grant, I just want you to tell this audience your story, because we talked about it back in the day when I was doing my sports talk radio show. And everybody kind of turned their backs on you. But tell me, just kind of take, for this audience, tell them what was going on with you in the summer of 2020 and what happened to you. I'm just going to give you the floor.
On May 31st of 2020, I was sitting in my living room watching TV, and I got a phone call from the head coach now of the Sacramento Kings, Doug Christie, who is my co-host on my radio show. And he said, "Napes, did you see DeMarcus Cousins' tweet?" I said, "No, I don't follow him. As a matter of fact, I muted him." And he said, "You should check it out." So I did. And it was at Grant Napear's show, "What do you think of BLM?" And I said something like, "Hey, I haven't heard from you in years. I thought you forgot about me." And I responded with 6 words, "All lives matter," every single one in capital letters with 3 exclamation points. Well, all of a sudden, I'm getting a lot of calls and messages. "Oh, wow, I can't believe you said that." Well, that was Sunday night at about 6 o'clock. Tuesday afternoon by 2:40, I had been fired by a radio station that I was at for 26 years. Same time slot for 26 years, highly rated show. And then I resigned as the 32-year TV voice of the Sacramento Kings on that same day. That was 5 years ago.
This is, I think it's important to remind people of what was going on. So I want to follow this back up. You tweeted in response to an NBA player tweeting to you about Black Lives Matter, "All lives matter, every single one." And you lost your radio job, sports talk radio job of 26 years, and your 32-year Sacramento Kings television announcing job was gone as well. Okay, that is, it is really very staggering. What was the response both publicly and privately to all of that happening to you in the early summer of 2020?
Privately, people were outraged. They were blown away. I had some of the biggest names in the sportscasting industry reach out to me talking about how they couldn't believe it. And then they were telling me that, gee, they're going to be nervous about saying something that maybe they shouldn't, or it's going to be misconstrued. But what was amazing is every single one of them said, "I would love to speak up for you publicly, but I can't." They were too afraid. That was what it was like. People were too afraid to speak out and come to my defense. Publicly, I had a lot of support, but unfortunately, this was 1 week after the murder of George Floyd. And you know what's crazy about this, Clay? Leading up to that May 31st, May 25th was when George Floyd was murdered. I had a lot of positive tweets about what was going on, supporting everything that was going on. Nobody spent 5 minutes to go back and look at those tweets. It was like, oh, wait a minute. We have to fire Grant Napear. We have to show Black Lives Matter. Don't come after us. Oh, no, we fired a guy that said all lives matter. They panicked. Think about that, Clay. A 32-year career, a 26-year career. I didn't have one thing in either HR department with the Sacramento Kings or Bonneville International. And here's something else that's interesting. If you go to Bonneville International right now, if you Google Bonneville International leadership and you look at their leadership, every single person is either a white male or a white female. No people of color, no minorities. It's a freaking joke. It's an absolute joke. And I was the scapegoat. I was the sacrificial lamb to tell Black Lives Matter, hey, don't come after us. We just fired a guy that said all lives matter. It was unbelievable.
I remember covering it, and I believe we had you on, and we talked about the fact that this was ridiculous. There was almost nobody else that would say it. What lessons, sitting here 5 years later, do you think the country needs to take and to learn? What would you hope By the way, before we get into the lessons, let's go to the reason I was very excited to see this. You now are coming back on the air. Sacramento is one of the biggest audiences this show has, so we appreciate everybody listening to us in California. You are going to be back on the air after 5 years doing sports talk radio in Sacramento. Tell us about that.
Well, I'm very excited. It just kind of all happened over the last couple of months. If you had asked me a year ago if I thought I'd be back on Sacramento radio, I would have said no way. I've been doing a podcast. I started doing a podcast in October of 2020, just a couple of months after I was fired. And isn't it just crazy? My first guest on my podcast, Charles Barkley. He didn't have a problem with me saying all lives matter. I had Dusty Baker on. I've had a lot of former Kings on, Spud Webb, Reggie Theus. I had the former head coach Keith Smart on. I mean, I can go on and on and on. They didn't have any problem with it. It was just a joke. But I am going back September 2nd. I'm starting on Fox Sports Radio Sacramento. I'm very excited about it. But you asked me a question about, what have I learned in the last 5 years? Zuby Music. He's got well over 1 million followers on social media. And I wrote this down a couple of years ago because I thought he deals in common sense. He's like you. You guys deal in common sense. He wrote, Black lives matter because all lives matter. White lives matter because all lives matter. All lives couldn't matter if black or white lives didn't matter or any others. Stop being dumb and dividing over basic stuff we already agree on. Here's what I've learned over the last 5 years. I've been blessed to travel. I've been to Europe. I frequently go to Thailand. And I've talked to a lot of people from a lot of different cultures, different backgrounds, different countries. We're the only people, I think, on the planet that are even debating this and talking about this. This is not a topic anywhere else in the world. I don't understand why here we are in 2025, and there are people, even on my social media over the last 24 hours, talking about, well, gee, didn't he learn? You can't say all lives matter. No, those are very much in the minority. Those were only a few people. But the point is there are still some people in this country that think that all lives matter is a racist comment. I don't get that. All lives matter, every single one, doesn't have any gray area to me. All lives matter, every single one, I would think is pretty self-explanatory. But I think Zuby summarized it perfectly. So what have I learned in the last 5 years? I've learned that it's really only an issue in America. With the woke culture, and if you're not politically correct, you're going to get attacked. I mean, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke what I've gone through. I've got great support. I don't have any problem putting my head on the pillow at night. I'm grateful for this opportunity to get back to Sacramento radio. But again, I don't know what the big deal is. And, it's such a shame that in America, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but everything's about black and white. Why does it have to be like that? Again, when I travel around the world and talk to people from different cultures, it's not like that there. In Thailand, which I love, and it's a great country, they don't care what your ethnicity is, your religion, your sexual orientation. They're just good people. They're happy people. They work. They don't even talk about this stuff. But in America, it's like a daily conversation. I don't understand it.
I think this is an important conversation, and I want to go back to the difference between public and private commentary. What I try to do, for better or worse, and I screw up all the time on the show. I can barely pronounce half the words that I try to say on a day-to-day basis, especially as anybody long-term listening would recognize, try to have fun with it. But what I try to do is there's very little difference between what I would say publicly and what I would say privately. And I think that's why people have never really been able, Grant, to come after me, because that's what I've done my whole career. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I'm just saying there is no gap. If I go to this Atlanta Braves game tonight, which I'm going to do with my kids, and you see me there, what I would say to you in person is the same thing that I would say on the radio. Now, maybe occasionally I curse at a sporting event, things like that. I have FCC restrictions here. So, with that limited difference, for you, what I found during the BLM era, during COVID, during the summer of 2020, all of that, so many people said to me privately, I agree 100% with everything you're saying, but I'm afraid to say it publicly. And that's how the world becomes what happened to you, is people know it's wrong, but they're afraid of being targeted themselves. And I imagine you saw better than most that dichotomy between what people would say to you privately and what might be said publicly.
Totally. You're 100% correct. And here's another aspect of what I went through 5 years ago. So I was fired I had my career literally turned upside down in 36 hours. In the early 2000s, I started a foundation in Sacramento called the Future Foundation. I had an annual golf tournament, and what we did is we took underprivileged, at-need students from high schools in the Sacramento area. All right? They had to fit a certain criteria. These were first-generational college students. I mean, it was incredible. My foundation that I raised the money for, we put 104 students into college and through college, most of whom were minorities, okay? Nobody spent 5 minutes and said, whoa, wait a minute. Look at what this guy's done for the community. Look what he's done for the black community. I think we had 38 students of color that I put through college. It's like that didn't matter. It was just a knee-jerk, ridiculous action by the company that fired me. And I agree with you about the private-public thing. I think things are different now. I think people are much more open about coming out and feeling confident about speaking their opinion and what they believe in. But in 2020, people were paranoid. You know that, Clay. I mean, people that listen. If you were white, you know this. If you were a white person in the media, okay, you had to be walking on eggshells to go out and say anything even remotely negative about Black Lives Matter. I mean, you would have been canceled. I was canceled, right? I was canceled 5 years ago. I was part of the cancel culture, and everyone knows it.
Yeah, I think so. Well, look, Grant, congratulations on your new radio show in Sacramento. Again, I know a lot of people out there listening to us right now in Sacramento know you well, and I am glad that you are finally getting back to doing what you do well. But I do think it's a lesson of how the world lost its mind in sports and otherwise, culture, politics, everywhere else. I appreciate you making the time for us, and congrats on the new show.
Well, thanks for having me on. Bottom line, I'm happy. I have no regrets. I'm all good, and I can't wait for this next chapter, and I greatly respect you, love your work, and thanks for having me on.
He's Grant Napear, and you can listen to him Sports Talk Radio in Sacramento, where he never should have been off the air in the first place. We'll take some reactions to that, and I do think his story is emblematic of, as we come up on the 5-year anniversary of all that chaos, all the things that were done wrong and what is being rejected now, and all of the fixing that is going on, for lack of a better word, in the Trump regime. I want to tell you right now, if you want to help people that are having danger rain down on their homes quite legitimately every single day, you can go right now to online at ifcj.org. That's ifcj.org, and you can help to make sure that all the people that are having to rush to bomb shelters all day long in Israel, that they have places to go to. That's what the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews does. They provide critical first aid and emergency supplies, including bomb shelters. I saw it for myself. They need your help now more than ever in the wake of October 7th. 888-488-IFCJ is the phone number. The website, again, ifcj.org. That's ifcj.org.